Good afternoon, everyone. This is Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. I'm Giles Edwards, and you may remember me from previous Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast casts, typically with Greg Smalley, and once, a bit ago, with Pete Turbovich. Just this afternoon, I recorded a Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast cast with Pete Turbovich, but unfortunately, in keeping with the technical issues that have been bedeviling me and apparently others all day today, that particular recording may well be lost to the ages. Or Greg may dig it up and post it anyway, despite the, shall we say, unfortunate sound issues that, more often than not, garbled or silenced my good friend Pete, and compromising tremendously the wonderful banter and repartee that we had established earlier this afternoon in discussion of a rather full slate of theatrical and DVD and Blu Ray re-releases that I will discuss with you now briefly so that you can have all the information you need about what to buy this coming week. We're going to start with Happer's Comet. You can't see this, but in front of me is an image of the movie poster for Happer's Comet. This is a film by Tyler Taormina, I believe is how his last name is pronounced. A filmmaker that came to our attention with the movie Ham on Rye, which is presently under consideration for Apocrypha status. This movie is one that I caught at Fantasia. Gosh, was it last year? It must have been. It's 62 minutes, all taking place at night. No particular dialogue, though there are ambient noises, radio, chirping of crickets, and the like. In the course of one evening, I believe there's a comet going overhead in the little town that this takes place, and is kind of a contemplative video mood essay. That might be the best way to describe it. It is brief, as I mentioned, and I wrote in my Fantasia micro review for it that, in a very good way, it seems a fine motion picture to fall asleep to. That said, if it is in a theater near you and you do check it out, I imagine it would be more respectful to the other patrons if you did not. Unless, of course, you sleep very quietly. Next up on the docket is Dr. Caligari. No, not his cabinet, but the 1989 classic of, well, with the same doctor name. This is described to me by a source that would know as, oh, what did he have to say? Yes, a softcore sex movie with Salvador Dali-inspired imagery. There is also campy acting. We have a fairly thorough treatment of this particular classic in our on the website, so you can feel free to check that out, although I strongly suspect that very many of you are familiar with this already. What you won't be familiar with, however, is just how incredibly 4K Ultra HD this particular printing is. Yes, at long last, Mondo Macabro has brought to you, I, and everyone a limited edition 4K Ultra HD version of this, we'll call it a softcore science fiction horror classic. So check that out. It's coming your way, and being limited edition, you'll want to get it before it's gone. Hopefully, in less limited editionness, is Time Bandits. Yes, this has been kicking around for a while on VHS, probably even beta, I imagine PAL as well. But at present, from the good people at Criterion, there is now, for our enjoyment, a 4K Ultra HD Blu Ray disc release of Terry Gilliam's early classic. Not so much genre-defining, but perhaps as Gilliam-defining, setting down, or at least cementing, a number of the stylistic and tonal elements that we would proceed to witness from him over his many years telling us stories through cinema. Time Bandits. It's available now from Criterion, 4K Ultra HD. And for those of you out there who may not have a 4K Blu-ray player or a 4K worthy television screen, perhaps it's time to upgrade. And if that doesn't convince you, maybe Peter Greenaway's new release will. Can you believe it? It's been 40 years since the Draughtsman's contract has been released. That's 4 decades of eccentric imagery, odd whodunit, and a whole lot of technical drawing. It's actually a charming movie with a macabre edge to it, as might be expected from Peter Greenaway. I've seen it, highly enjoyed it, and actually suspect we should very well include it in the Apocrypha canon. Wait, that's a contradiction in terms. Include it in the Apocrypha, even though we haven't reviewed it at all on the website yet. I hope to remedy that once I get my hands on this little baby, although that may wait until after something is over with midsummer. Moving along with the wonderful world of top-notch re-releases, From Hollywood to Heaven, the lost and saved films of the Ormond Family. Now, not everyone is familiar with this group, but those of you who are probably familiar with their odd history. For years, the Ormond Family, a father-mother-son trio, created trashy exploitation what have you. Then, when chartering a private air-going conveyance, they nearly crashed and died, and found God. Or maybe God found them. For it was after this incident that they moved on to trashy exploitation religious movies. This, however, is a collection of the ones that are less religious. This is from Powerhouse Films. It's limited edition. It's from the Indicator label, which has a whole bunch of color bars, which suggests to me that they must know something about quality of image. And included amongst, I believe, the 4 exploitation films, there are dozens of family shorts, and with this delightful box set, limited edition, of course, a 100-page book by forensic biographer Jimmy McDonough. Now, I don't know what the difference between a forensic biographer and a biographer is, but I'm sure if Jimmy McDonough felt it worth his time to spill out 100 pages for this particular group of oddballs, it's worth your time to check out at least a few of their movies, if not snapping up this box set, which, again, I repeat, is limited edition. Continuing in what I believe is another limited edition, and I remember from research earlier, also has a 100-page booklet with it, is Mexico Macabre, 4 Sinister Tales from the Alameda Films Vault, 1959 through 1963. A fascinating era in certainly North American cinema, maybe not Canada, but definitely the US, and I'm seeing from this array of titles here, Mexico as well. This box set, and again, a box set with a 100-page booklet, has The Black Pit of Dr. M, The Witch's Mirror, The Brainiac, and The Curse of the Crying Woman. I checked recently on Amazon, and I think this is at a reasonable price right now, so this may be another thing for you to consider putting me on pause and going and buying immediately. Up next, for whatever reason, there's a theatrical re-release of Lars von Trier's movie The Idiots, which I believe came out in 1920-something. Oh, I don't know. It probably really doesn't matter. 1998. This was controversial, even for Lars von Trier, even for Cannes, even for those in Europe, and it bothered a whole lot of people, especially in Europe, with its frank depiction of, I don't know, bourgeois being idiots, as well as graphic displays of sex. And my main objection to it, however, being that it is one of those questionable Dog Me 95 films. I will not dwell on this too long because I do want to speed myself up here, and I could complain about this for an indefinite period of time. Those who know, and those who don't, I advise you don't bother trying to find out. It's just terrible. At any rate, The Idiots, Lars von Trier, controversial, sex, idiocy, limited theatrical re-release for your enjoyment. And wrapping up our main events here, for everyone's enjoyment, Beau is afraid. He's been afraid for a while. He was afraid around festivals. I believe he was even afraid briefly in theaters, but now he can be afraid for you in the comfort of your own home with video on demand. Greg had any number of great things to say about this movie. I believe he threw around words like methamphetamine, fever dream, and epic length. And I certainly know I'm intrigued and am looking forward to the prospect of watching an Ari Aster motion picture that has protagonists that I care about, broken though they may be. That wraps up the main menu, and we were also tossed a few other items to perhaps throw in as time would allow, which it did, which we weren't able to take advantage of, as you can see, because of our technical issues. The optional items. Asteroid City by Wes Anderson opens this week. Almost certainly not weird, almost certainly whimsical, doubtlessly very well made. I'm looking forward to it, may even make a special effort to see it in the cinema. Jagged Mind, a Hulu original movie with limited information at the time it was brought to my attention, but I found this description on IMDb rather intriguing. Billy, i.e., is plagued by blackouts and strange visions that lead her to discover she's stuck in a series of time loops, possibly related to her mysterious new girlfriend. So we have some elements here. We have an unreliable narrator, we have time travel, and we have lesbians. These almost certainly add up to something interesting enough for watching. It's under an hour and a half long, and I'm actually amazed to be able to announce that since I looked this up 20 minutes ago, its IMDb rating has dropped from 4.1 out of 10 to 3.9 out of 10. This can mean a number of things. What I'm hoping it means is it's actually worthwhile for a particular type of audience. Our type of audience. You. Because this probably just annoyed a lot of people by being confusing and possibly a little edgy. So, odds are someone on our brave team will check this out because, as we can see, it won't take us that long. What else? Okay, Tommy Guns and Giving Birth to a Butterfly. These are both sort of old news. Tommy Guns is set in 1971 Angola, I believe right after its liberation from their Portuguese colonial masters, and is a combination of one of those wartime, idealist time, fever dream, weird doings. Looked intriguing. Please do check out the trailer. I have every suspicion we'll include it, and if not, easy to find. And Giving Birth to a Butterfly, Tommy Guns is on DVD and Blu Ray, but not VOD. But on VOD is Fantasia 2021 reviewed Giving Birth to a Butterfly. For those of you curious about this phenomenon, which Pete aptly pointed out in that tragically lost video, that you don't do that. They start as caterpillars. But maybe this metaphor is explored further by the filmmaker, and perhaps you can explore along with them if you're so inclined on video on demand. That wraps things up for what is now my third take of this week's podcast, because I had the sound issue with Pete. Again, unfortunate. Miss you, guy. Then I had a sound issue of my own when I recorded this not 15 minutes ago, the first time. And I am just praying to God that this sound got through this time because my voice is getting hoarse. At any rate, Pete, we'll knock him dead next time. Greg, welcome back. And everyone, thank you very kindly for listening to Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. I am your fast-talking host, Giles Edwards. The button.
All right, recording in progress.
Hey, I'm Giles Edwards. With me is Pete Turbovich.
Hey, good Pete.
And we are here today for Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. Our boss is out in the Bahamas again, so he was unavailable to record today. So it's me and Pete as we crash through this week's slate of cinematic, DVD, Blu Ray releases, and other weird movie news.
Alrighty.
So, without further ado, I will see if I can get my screen to share. As we have already addressed one technical issue, we'll try to avoid a second one.
All right.
All right. Now, Pete, can you tell me if you see that?
I see a list of your images here in a directory setup, but I don't see the.
Well, what if I do that?
Are you trying to blow up the Happer's Comet theatrical image?
I am indeed.
Okay. I think it's trying to do something, but I don't see it.
Well, this is at least in keeping with our previous 10 minutes of.
Yeah, I know. It's all technical difficulties, guys.
Because I know I've done this before.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, Happer's Comet, I could not find any images of that. I did find a trailer, and it seems to have something to do with people roller skating at night. I really couldn't tell.
I actually saw it at Fantasia. It's a 62-minute movie thing that takes place entirely, oh gosh, must be, I don't know, a few dozen kind of vignettes in different houses in the middle of the night. I had various remarks about it. Oh, I am now half remembering how to do this. Okay.
We'll get this as we go along.
I think I might be able to get us some images. Everyone keep your fingers crossed with me, and remember, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So get this.
While we're waiting, I just wanted to flash this on the screen one time. I forgot to mention it before, but this is Ignore That Door, their album they put out with Born Records here. And I got a contributor's copy because I was on this. Giles, were you on this?
I actually, yes, I am. I am the body collector.
Okay.
That particular item, which was a treat to record.
But anyway, that's Kurt. And look for it from Born Records. I just forgot to pitch that one last time.
Hey, I think I've got a thing. Do you see that?
Yeah, I see something. I certainly see
like a double line of roads through some tiles.
Yeah.
All right. This is Happer's Comet. It's coming out in theaters, very limited release. We'll have some information on the website. It's a film by Tyler Taormina, who I believe did Ham on Rye, which is one of our Apocrypha selections from a year or two ago. This is a meditative piece. I'm sort of hard-pressed to say whether or not I recommend it. My reaction at Fantasia was in a complimentary way. I could see it as a good movie to fall asleep to. Has a bunch of neat little images, nothing too intense going on. Not boring per se, but definitely very quiet. So that is our first item of interest. Second,
is the comet playing into the story anyhow?
I think it's an incidental event. There's a comet in the sky that particular night.
Yeah, okay.
And various people are doing things that night. Some of them looking at said comet, some of them utterly unaware.
Okay.
It's sort of it's like an ASMR movie, I guess, to bust out a phrase that recently came back to my lexicon. This one isn't. I don't have too much to say about this film, not having seen it.
Well, for one thing, we do have Dr. Caligari, of course. Not is it Caligari or Caligari?
Caligari.
Okay, not related to the original cabinet, Dr. Caligari, but it's from the creators of Cafe Flesh. And when I see the trailer for it, it appears to be about a mad female doctor. I think it might be in the same genre as something like Blood Diner.
Yeah, I can believe
that kind of way. The trailer, to tell you the truth, the gal playing Dr. Caligari is not really impressing me with her all-in acting skills, I should say. She's kind of sort of sleepwalking a little bit, but outside of the performances, everything's really wacky, and it's got that hyper-manic, gross-out humor of the kind from things like Blood Diner.
And you can now enjoy it in 4K HD. And Pete, if you stay roughly in that position, leaning back as you are, I think that's going to be our best sound luck when you're speaking.
Really?
Yeah, because you got a little jumbled when you got closer. Again, apologize for the audio here. We're doing our best under, shall we say, slightly disorganized circumstances. Moving right along, something of interest to, I hope, everybody is another 4K release directed by longtime favorite Terry Gilliam. It
Yeah.
is Time Bandits.
And now it's coming out in 4K too, right?
Yes, it is, from the good people at Criterion, who have managed to keep their claws on the film rights, which doesn't always happen with this
Yeah.
movie. I know is swapped around a bit, other films have, but it's
Yeah.
coming to you. So those with a Swish player and a nice TV will be able to see this early Gilliam classic in probably the best form that it's ever been projected.
Oh yeah, and I put this right up there with one of the top fantasy films of all time. I remember when this came out in theaters, and there were just people lining up. Um, it really took things by storm for a while there. It was like everybody was hailing it as a new, almost with the kind of enthusiasm people had for Willy Wonka and Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
It was almost that level of genre storytelling. But of course, Python Heads had an advanced lead on it.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
So
I just saw a vintage video podcast. Can I mention another podcast? Why not?
oh, please do.
Video podcast, and I was just seeing them on Twitter there, and they recently did a bit on Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits. So they've got a whole thing.
Yeah. I've been slowly through you certainly, and otherwise finding more and more friends of offbeat cinema, which has been a gratifying experience.
Yeah, I can see them doing that. They were talking about doing a review of every movie that came out in the 80s. Yeah, for Time Bandits, I was listening to a little bit of their bit, and they mentioned that George Harrison, who did of course, the final song "Dream Away" for that movie, and George actually wanted to do quite a bit more of the soundtrack. Terry Gilliam kind of butted heads with him. George Harrison compared Terry Gilliam to dealing with John Lennon at his most stubborn and artistically pretentious.
Oh,
and took that compliment.
that's saying something by someone who would know. So that, however that worked out, we still have this, and it's as pretty as it's ever been.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Speaking of pretty, we roll right along with another pretty movie that has been remastered. Peter Greenaway has a kind of sketchy history, at least in the US, vis-a-vis releases of his movies in any way that does the visuals credit. So this Blu Ray of the Draughtsman's Contract is hopefully a welcome start to remedying this situation, because Greenaway is a very visual director and a very precise creator of images, and so him in high res is going to be something to look for. And the Draughtsman's Contract movie itself is a delightful and strange little murder mystery kind of thing.
It's a period piece with really, really tall powdered wigs, just exaggerated in all directions. I noticed.
Yeah, I read up on that. They apparently, there's an opening bit where you meet a bunch of well-to-do noblemen, upper merchant types, and apparently that costuming and wigs and so on is actually only a very slight exaggeration of what was the thing at the time. So definitely very lush things going on screen in both character and there's a wonderful statue that occasionally comes to life and moves things forward. Yeah, it's a neat little movie that hopefully I'll be able to remedy us not having addressed it yet on the website.
Okay.
So that is item 4, which brings us to item 5. This is a big box set. I'm not terribly familiar with the Ormond family, but I believe we touched on them 2 weeks ago as some unlikely filmmakers. Let's see, here we go. For almost half a century, June, Ron, and Tim Ormond, a Nashville mother-father-son trio, cranked out a wild bunch of movies, from Lash LaRue westerns to the stripper gore musical outrage The Exotic Ones, and plunged into every area of showbiz. They did this independently, so some outsider art, if you will, that has left a particular Americana kind of stamp in the history of strange cinema in this country. And so now those who are interested can get, it looks like, 4 features at least, plus I imagine, a 100-page booklet,
Wow.
audio commentaries, bunch of short films, and of course, as a Blu-ray box of this type usually is, limited edition. So this is something to check out if you have any interest in just what Midwestern strange religious types might be doing to try to express themselves through the cinematic arts.
Well, I'm looking through the posters, and they definitely look like they've got some got some exploitation to them.
Oh, yeah.
The prophecy of a doomed America.
Yeah, we'll certainly have a link to this, and you'll be able to sift through those yourself and see, yep, that's some exploitation cinema. Okay. Well, we are just going bang, bang, bang. Speaking of exploitation, we go south of the border for the Mexico Macabre box set, also from Indicator. This is a collection of 4 Sinister Tales from the Alameda Films Vault, 1959 through 1963, which was a particularly strange era. Certainly for American cinema, I can only guess that considering the cultural nuances, perhaps even a little more so to at least your standard US audience here. So Mexico Macabre is your chance to get, yet again, a limited edition box set of, I'm going to guess Blu Ray. As I said, it should have done a little more research, but we kind of started this as best we could under inauspicious technical circumstances. So yes, a snip at $47.
Great.
And with titles like Black Pit of Dr. M, The Witch's Mirror, The Brainiac, and The Curse of the Crying Woman, you can bet you're in for some great necromancy, gothic, what have you, secrets, afterlife, death, and I'm gonna guess probably a little over the top acting as well. So this looks like another fun little thing with another fun little 100-page booklet accompanying it.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Have you seen any of these?
They seem to be digging further and further with in their pursuit of nice Blu-rays to release, which is something I am definitely not complaining about.
Have you seen any of these?
I have not. I have. My knowledge of Mexican cinema is shamefully abysmal. I am almost certain I've seen examples of it, but titles do not come to mind. So that's another thing for me to remedy, possibly as a very brief segue, coming up this July when I will be traveling up north to Montreal to the Fantasia Film Festival. I recently got word that they are accepting my presence there again, and it's definitely a very international experience there, so I will be keeping my eyes peeled.
Call Twitter.
Yes. Now this is a very small image, because looking around for a photograph of Lars von Trier's The Idiots, which we bring to your attention because it is being re-released in select theaters now, and it is a von Trier movie, which has its certain connotations. It's one of his Dog Me 95 little excursions, which has its own connotations, and it really upset a whole lot of people, even in Europe, which,
Lars von Trier. This is part of his Dog Me 95 manifesto films. I went to look that up, and the manifesto is a just a kind of set of rules and guidelines for making cinema in a certain way. They had some very Puritan type restrictions.
Yeah.
They had some. I'm looking it up. Shooting must be done on location. Props and sets must not be brought in. The sound must never be produced apart from the images or vice versa. You're getting all this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Camera must be handheld. Film must be in color. Special lighting is not acceptable. Optical works and filters are forbidden. The film must not contain superficial action like murders and weapons. Temporal and geographical alienation are forbidden. Genre movies are not acceptable. The film format must be Academy 35 millimeter, and the director must not be credited. Wow, that's pretty strict.
Yeah, it was done sort of as a little experiment, I believe, as what can we do with this, which I guess I'm kind of okay with, but from my understanding, it spawned its own small church among certain filmmakers, and as a style, I can't say I really am on board with it, because I consider, for now at least, cinema to be the best storytelling tool we've got, and to hamstring yourself for purposes as dubious as this is something I don't really approve of. But there are plenty of other things for me to watch, and if you are interested in catching the idiots, as I said, there will be some select theaters, probably not near you, but we will have more information on the site accompanying this podcast. And after the idiots, we will give one brief mention to Beau is Afraid, which is a movie I'm looking forward to putting aside some time for. It is now available on video on demand. Our very own Greg Smalley reviewed this and had, I will say, primarily very good things to say about it. It's, of course, from the director of Midsummer and
Heredity.
Yes, and whereas everyone else knows Ari Aster, hey, even I know his name, so that's fantastic. Yeah, this is
He came out, and that really that people are still talking about that one. The horror movie culture really got shaken up when Hereditary came out. It's a psychological thriller. People were coming out and saying, "Oh, I'm so freaked out." So that one, and certainly Midsummer, even though it retreads some of the same ground as Wicker Man, had some ideas to it. But this one here is interesting. A guy with anxiety, anxiety and panic disorder and depression and stuff like that. They're getting a little more cinema now, and I think it'd be interesting to have a story of somebody with anxiety. Now they overcame it as more of a psychological interior battle.
Yeah. I am definitely much more interested in this. I haven't seen Hereditary, have been strongly advised I should, and I certainly will. I have seen Midsummer, and I didn't quite get the hype. So I'm much more excited about Beau is Afraid because I've read very different reactions to it. Mm-hmm. Some people personally offended that it happened, others finding it nothing short of amazing. And I'm a big fan of Joaquin Phoenix, so I think this is the stars have aligned that I will see an Ari Aster that I can almost certainly get fully behind.
All right.
So that is the main slate. I'm going to stop sharing. Pete, did you have a chance to throw together things for our potential auxiliary, or are we just going to wing it for the rest of this?
Possibly wing it, but I have been paying attention to one series that's on Tubi right now. If you go to look it up, and this is the Female Prisoner Scorpion series. It's a Japanese exploitation series. There's 3 core movies in a trilogy, and then they made a few more extended ones. I kind of lose track. It's by the Japanese director Joshu Sasori. We don't have a write-up on this one, but I'm going to be bumping hard to have one of the movies in this series be included. But it's Female Prisoner 701 Scorpion, 1972. All these are on Tubi. Female convict Scorpion Jailhouse 41, female prisoner 701 Scorpion Be Stable in 73, and there's Grunge Song also in 73. It tells the story of Matsu, a Japanese girl who got betrayed by her boyfriend, who is in the Japanese gangster. What do you call it? Yakuza? That's the one. Yeah. Yeah, so the Yakuza, she ends up in jail, and it's a women in prison exploitation thing. They're all horribly mistreated, and she suffered and suffered and suffered. And the rest of the series is about her escaping and getting her revenge on everybody who's betrayed her. Very much has an I Spit in Your Grave and Miss 45 vibe to it. Even though it's Japanese, it doesn't take itself so much up with martial arts fighting in action, but there's action, and it's really a nutty pace. So I'm going to be making a case for that maybe later on. That's just my little discovery for people who want to see something on Tubi.
Yeah, and for those, if you want to, if you're convinced enough, either by Pete's description there or from your side research, the good people at Arrow have collected, it looks like all the female prisoner Scorpion films in a Blu Ray box set, which I can't tell whether or not there's a booklet, but there's got to be. Well, actually, no booklet, but that's all right. It does have all 4 films and all the sundry extras that we have come to expect Arrow to slap onto everything that they seem to release these days.
All right.
That's available at current modest price of $57 for all 4 of those on Blu Ray. Or on Tubi for free.
All right.
I guess taking a little. Okay, other optional things. A Wes Anderson motion picture opens this week, Asteroid City. I know nothing about it other than the fact that it's got a bunch of people he's worked with before. It has the pastel color scheme that he's noted for, this case with a dry desert kind of fusion with the color there. And let's see, and other things for the particularly curious among you. Jagged Mind is a Hulu original movie. I'm advised no info beyond the trailer, which I haven't seen, because, that's how I'm doing it today. Tommy Guns, we've spoken about, is now available on DVD and Blu Ray. That was let me quickly look that one up because that one looked kind of interesting, and we didn't quite have. One moment. Thank you kindly for bearing with me. All right, so it is Angola made and set in the year 1974. Pertaining to a pro-independence group gradually claiming territory back and various complications therein. It looked like a kind of dreamy military fusion. So, I imagine there's more than one review out there with the words Apocalypse Now somewhere hidden about their review, but that's not the only jungle movie. And Giving Birth to a Butterfly is now also available on VOD. And we did discuss that sometime this past month or so. And that, yes, I remember Greg indicated that all descriptions of it didn't quite capture the oddity that was found within what looked like, per the trailer, your typical mumblecore drama.
Mumblecore.
Oh, man. What are you going to do? You can't have everything.
Yep.
And when you can't have everything, then sometimes you can only afford mumblecore.
Yeah. Giving birth to a butterfly, that's interesting. Wouldn't you really give birth to a caterpillar and then it spins a chrysalis and becomes a butterfly?
See, this is when it would be great if we had Greg here, because he could perhaps explain the I'm going to say symbolism is probably what's behind that particular title, but I definitely see and agree with your point.
All right.
Obviously, the philosophical physio implications of giving birth to a fully developed entity with no growth interim are well worth considering, and may well be what is being considered by the director Theodore Schaefer. I don't know.
Deep stuff.
But
Well,
That, I think, knocks out all the news.
yeah, that's all it is. However, this is a great heavyweight lineup here. We got Terry Gilliam, Lars von Trier, and Peter Greenaway. But this is right there, almost a trifecta. That knocks out a good portion of the 366 Weird Movies official list right there.
Yeah.
How many Terry Gilliam movies are on the list?
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Time Bandits, Brazil. I'm sure
Brazil, certainly. It's 12 Monkeys.
Monkeys is on there. Yes, that's right. The world's most intellectually challenging time travel movie.
Just about. Certainly, yeah. The only competitor I can think of is La Jetée, but obviously that's to be expected. 12 Monkeys being a riff on that.
Did you ever see Primer?
I have seen Primer. We've actually reviewed Primer.
Yep. All right, we reviewed Primer.
And yeah, I remember it was one of the earlier reviewed in the annals of 366 coverage, and I believe it was Greg's review fell on the side that actually probably can't really include it because it makes too much sense. It's very complicated, but it's like I haven't been hit with that much more science seeming time travel, I think, than in any other movie I've seen that focuses on that. So yeah. Terry Gilliam has been covered by us. The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, I reviewed that a few years back. A very charming little piece with Adam Driver and Jonathan Pryce. Jonathan Pryce, of course, Terry Gilliam's stalwart over many years. Monty Python, The Meaning of Life, with the co-directorship between Gilliam and Terry Jones.
That stands there too.
Let's see, 12 Monkeys, as we said. Jabberwocky, I covered, I'm 6 years ago now. And that, I think, that was effectively, depending upon what you think of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Jabberwocky is more or less Terry Gilliam's debut feature.
Yeah.
Where he kind of did, at least within the realm of budget, did whatever he wanted to.
Yep.
Fisher King got reviewed about 8 years back, and high praise from Greg, but not a list qualifier there, and I can understand that. Oh God, I've forgotten about the Zero Theorem. I think it's probably for the best that I forgot about that.
That one actually got shot down. That one was basically Gilliam. It's almost like it was supposed to be happening in the same universe as Brazil, and it kind of felt like Gilliam was finally retreading himself a little bit, like just revisiting just to squeeze something out, and I think try to make a quick box office buck in order to finish off his Don Quixote movie that he was doing at the time.
Yeah, well, it's certainly got a good lineup with Christoph Waltz, David Thewlis, Tilda Swinton, and Matt Damon. So it's got
legs to stand on its own.
Yeah, it's there's a certain floor with Gilliam, so I will check it out one day. But I'm in no particular rush for that.
Oh,
so yeah, he's pretty well covered. Adventures of Baron Munchausen, which I actually recently rewatched. I grew up with that movie. Was a mid-childhood favorite of mine, and I was pleased to see that, not having seen it for 15 years, it was still a whole lot of fun. And
yeah, it is. Yeah, usually pretty fun, except for Tideland. Tideland is like Gilliam's
not fun
movie. No,
Tideland is an amazing movie.
It could only have been made by Terry Gilliam. Let's put it that way.
And certainly a frustrated one, because he did that either concurrently or right on the heels with the Brothers Grimm as a kind of like angry artistic project that I guess he was overcome with the desire to tell that story to get the bad taste of Brothers Grimm out of his mouth after his traditional run-in with the various studio goons who have simultaneously boosted and thwarted him his entire career.
Yeah, he just can't seem to catch a break.
Yeah. Yes, Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. I remember that being quite enjoyable.
Yeah. What titles does Greenaway have on the list besides
So Greenaway. Actually, I think I just looked that up because I was trying. Yeah, I was checking to see if we'd reviewed Draughtsman contracts. Baby of Macon is our latest Greenaway review, or at least apocryphized. That was Greenaway's Nuts to You All after the tremendous international art house fame he got for The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. He turned around and took all that goodwill and funneled it into this really beautiful and truly nasty, angry project that I guess certainly asserted his independence, if perhaps costing him bigger work in his immediate future after that release.
Well, fan reactionary there.
Yeah. Zed and Two Knots got snuck onto the canon.
Who snuck on? Which one snuck onto the canon?
Oh, Zed and Two Knots. I couldn't remember if that was canon or apocrypha, but it
Two Knots, yeah, okay.
The Falls, his debut, 3 hours faux documentary, which was absolutely an unlikely movie that I happily watched all 3 hours of in a row. Yeah, we've got, I think, at least half or more of the feature films, because he also did a whole bunch of shorts. He had an interesting web-based project back in the aughts.
Yeah.
That is definitely the Tulper Suitcases or something like that is the name. So
Greg reviewing, when I read Greg reviewing Lars von Trier, he seems to be an especially huge fan of his work too.
Yeah, and it's good that someone on staff is, because Mr. von Trier is.
He's for enthusiastic fans.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about von Trier, and as I said, that's fine, even ignoring the whole dogma thing. But we seem to have idled through the final minutes of this podcast with our reminiscence of 366 days gone by with some of the biggest directors to have hit our review pages. So we do thank you for your patience. Apologies for whatever sound issue may or may not be happening. And next week, you'll see Greg with somebody.
All right. Not you?
Maybe me. I don't know. I'm usually told week to week.
All right, man. Well, thanks, guys. Everybody, and stay trippy, and we'll see you next time.
Take care out there.
All right, we're done.